But yes,
evening.
Peter, the evaluation will be around the ballot on how they fared on the ballot.
Yeah, yeah. So the discussion will be around the scores on the ballot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
But will we know the scores that they gave?
No.
No.
We are not scoring them.
Like internally we are scoring them, but we won't be revealing the scores, because see, at the end of the day the scores are subjective. There's no guarantee that what I put as a numerical value, Nisha will follow that or Faraz will follow that. But since I know both of them very well and I've judged with them in the past, hopefully time hasn't done any damage to any of our faculties. I have a reasonable degree of, I know how they will perceive things. So you won't find much variance between Nisha and myself and Faraz, because we have somewhat the same thought process. So unless things have changed, it's been quite a while.
But the interesting thing is to find disagreement. That's the interesting thing, to find disagreement.
True, maybe. Like, I'm just saying from the point of view of having judged with each other in the past, we never know, because it all depends on how well these speeches are performed today, because that is the main meat of the sandwich. So depends upon.
I think one of the biggest issues from contestants is that judges don't know how to score properly or objectively.
Okay, yeah. No, that way, I think today, personally, I don't know any of the contestants, and I don't have any personal interest. Neither of them are from clubs that I represent or anything like that. So there's no conflict at all from my side. And I'm sure Nisha is not even from the district. Faraz is from another district as well. So it's as neutral as we can get.
I think we should start.
Yes. Hi, good evening all.
Good evening.
We will be starting in next 30 seconds. So I request you all to please mute yourself.
Okay.
Can I get a thumbs up once everyone has muted? Yes, perfect. A very good evening, everyone, and welcome you all to the fourth and the final session of the International Speech Masterclass, an initiative by Division B and Division L, District 105. As we all know, Toastmasters International started in 1924 by Dr. Ralph C. Smedley. The mission of Toastmaster International is we empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. A few ground rules to address this session. Please refrain from speaking on 3 taboo topics, which are sex, politics, and religion in this region. Kindly remain muted and only unmute when you are asked to speak, and turn on your video at all times if your bandwidth persists. If you are unmuted at any time, kindly keep all noise-making devices to a minimum and electronic devices to be switched off or on silent mode. Lastly, I request all of you to be encouraging as an audience and applaud by using the reaction button when our panelists, moderator, and the speakers are on the virtual stage. Next, I hand over the stage to someone whom I know for the past 5 years. I have met him at Tejas Toastmasters Club and got to know that he is a dual member of TSO Toastmasters Club. A very humble soul, more of like a brother to me, the Division B Director of District 105, Toastmaster Harish Krishnan. Over to you, Toastmaster Harish.
Thank you, Elna. I need a clap. Elna, need a clap, please. Our lives become beautiful not because we are perfect. Our lives become beautiful because we put our heart into whatever we do. This is one quote I chanced upon my feeds today, and this quote has relevance as this event today exemplifies it. This was one initiative of Division L Director Stephen George and myself, which was discussed even before we assumed the role of Division Directors. Beginning of this year, and today we see the culmination of this entire series. Again, it's not just ours alone. We had the hearts and heads of several other selfless Toastmasters to plan and execute this entire event. While conceptualizing, we had planned for little over 20 participants. as our intention were to create quality or quantity. But as it progressed, we saw the attendees rising and then made it open to all. All our past trainers were carefully picked and all have been there on the international stages, starting from Kashika Rodrigo to Linda Mary Miller to DTM Mark Hunter. Even this concluding session, we have chosen the panelists who are noteworthy in their niche within the Toastmaster spectrum and beyond. And to balance the act, we have an equally vibrant Toastmaster to moderate the session. We are glad that this session could create an impact on our potential aspirants and hope this will be a practice as we move forward in our journeys. Without stealing the thunder from our MC and the moderator, please join me again to welcome on screen our girl next door, the bubbly, the beautiful, the charming, the vivacious MC, and who also happens to be the Assistant Division L Director, Program Quality, Toastmaster Elna Tito. Over to you, Elna.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Harish, for that beautiful usage of adjectives before the year ends. And I'm looking forward to more adjectives. So I am equally excited, just like all of you, because the next 80 minutes is going to be beautifully crafted. We have an amazing moderator who is the darling of not only District 105, but the entire Toastmasters fraternity. Every time she addresses me, Molu, which is a Malayalam word, I have butterflies in my heart and my head goes all like this. She's known as the live wire, and I've asked her a question to introduce and to let you all know who she is. She has been a Toastmaster for 7 years, and one thing which she always says when it comes to international speeches, you need to own your own story. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together and welcome DTM Divya Raj. Next, we have a panel of 3 amazing Toastmasters. Let me tell you, they all joined Toastmasters when I was just 10 years old and chilling in my 5th standard. We have Toastmaster Nisha, who is 13 years in the fraternity, and she believes that every international speech should be something to connect with the audience. Then we have someone, Toastmaster Farhaz, who has also been in the fraternity for 7 years and believes that every international speech should have a relevant message. Lastly, we have our own handsome, amazing, the specialist in handwriting, DTM Sujit, who has been in the fraternity for 14 years and believes that every international speech should have a unique message. Now, we have 4 speakers lined up for the day. Our first speaker for the day is Toastmaster Gordon. Toastmaster Gordon, could you please switch on your video? Toastmaster Gordon. I request the Zoom Master to please spotlight Toastmaster Gordon. Yes, thank you so much, Toastmaster Ajita. Toastmaster Gordon, could you please repeat the test line? I love myself.
I love myself. So difficult to say that. It's over obsession.
Completely fine. Toastmaster Gordon, I confirm that I can see you properly and listen to you properly. Toastmaster Gordon, make it happen. Make it happen, Toastmaster Gordon. Over to you.
Do you have a dream? Is there a dream which you have realized? So wonderful, right? When you realize a dream. Is there a dream which you have not realized? I have. So I have this dream which I have realized. This dream is about buying my own house in my city, Mumbai. And I get a great satisfaction when I look at this dream that I have made it happen. But there's one more dream, which this dream is about starting my own business. And I've not been able to realize till this date. So if I look back at the dream which I've realized, and look back at the dream which I've not realized, there's a clear-cut roadmap of how to make it happen, which comes out. It's very important that you should have a dream in first place. Give yourself a chance. Make sure you have that unique dream for yourself, that very special dream for yourself. But once you have that dream, how to make it happen, this is what I'm going to share with you in the next few minutes. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests. Step number one is a purpose. Purpose is that what gives you that energy, that drive to get up every day, go ahead and make it happen. Your purpose is different from my purpose, and my purpose is different from somebody else who's sitting over here. So for my Mumbai house, that purpose was very clear to me. It was driven by my inherent need to have a shelter. So that was very clear, very strong purpose. But as far as the purpose to start my own business is concerned, this purpose has been very vague for me when I look back today. Oh, I need to do something on my own. Oh, I want some money. But this purpose is somewhat very weak. It's not strong enough for me to drive. It's not my purpose. You need to spend time and make sure that you spend time and realize what's your own purpose. Can you imagine having a dream and not having a purpose? I think there are two reasons why it can happen. Number one, it's not your dream. No fun, give it up. Because even if you make it happen, you will not be satisfied because it's not your dream in the first place. Number two is that you haven't spent enough of time to define that purpose for yourself. Then it makes sense that you go to the drawing board and define what is that purpose. Does this dream mean anything for you? What does it mean for you and why are you doing it? So make sure you define that purpose. That's step number one. Step number two is how to make it happen. So for my Mumbai house, I had my dad with me, who was my mentor. He showed me the path. He made me realize that I needed quick money and I needed lots of money. So with that clarity, I left Mumbai, came to Dubai, worked as hard as I could, saved every penny and made my house in Mumbai. But as far as starting my own business is concerned, I've not been able to figure out how even till date. How to do it, I've not been able to figure out. So it's so kind of sometimes gets difficult if you don't have a even mentor to show it to you. And I couldn't find any mentors who could show me how to do it. Now, I read a lot of books. I attend a lot of seminars. And I love all of them. But all these books and seminars, they talk about going from rags to riches. They talk about, oh, there is a tea boy and he has become a millionaire. That's the sexy part of it. But the how, which is not so sexy part of it, is not clearly defined. And I think you need to figure out that for yourself. That's very important. How. Step number three is consistency. See, from a Mumbai house, it took me 15 long years to make it happen. 15 years is a very long time. And I know the set of decisions I had to make to be consistent on that. See, I come from an automotive industry. And I remember the very first time I wanted to buy my car. I had 50,000 ready with me. I could have very comfortably gone for a car of 200,000 dirhams. But I said, I didn't want to go for mortgage. So from this 50,000, I took only 5,000, paid cash, and I have my car. But I was very clear that if I go for a mortgage, it will kind of reduce my saving potential. See, that's the kind of decisions you make to be consistent, which I did very well as well as my buying my house in Mumbai. But when I look back at my dream of starting my own business, I was so very inconsistent. I'm doing something today, forgetting about it, coming back and doing it. I don't have a purpose. I don't know how to do it. And I've not been able to kind of be consistent on that. So all in all, if I kind of bring it up all together, give yourself a chance for sure. Have that special dream, that big dream for yourself. What is a life if you don't have a dream? So believe in yourself and make that dream first of all. But once you have that dream, to make it happen, 3 steps. Number 1, define that purpose, spend time, make sure that purpose is unique to yourself. Number 2, figure it out how, and that's a difficult part, but you need to make sure you figure out how. And number 3, be consistent. Imagine how wonderful it would be for you to be consistent. Some people want to make it happen. Some people wish to make it happen. I want you to make it happen. Over to you, Toastmaster Day. Thank you. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Gordon. Now, I request Toastmaster Divya to please come up on the stage as a moderator and moderate the panelist. Over to you, Toastmaster Divya.
Thank you, Toastmaster Elena. Now, without wasting any time, let's quickly jump to, since there was a lot spoken about purpose in the speech, this question is to DTM Farhan. Were you able to understand the purpose around which the speech was structured?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, and lovely speech. Thanks a lot for the speech. I kind of got the purpose, but I'll tell you where my real problem lies, and I guess that's the whole purpose of what we are here today for. Now, the last statement was powerful to a certain extent. Some people want to make it happen. Some people wish to make it happen. I want you to make it happen. That was the statement the speaker said. Now, the speaker spoke about something he wanted to achieve, a realized dream, which was building the house. And there is a dream that is currently still in progress, which is building the business. Now, this is where I personally see there is a disconnect between the purpose of the speech and what has been said, is that whilst the speaker wishes the audience that he wants us to make it happen, he hasn't proven to me as audience, based on what has been instructed in the 5 to 7 minutes, that he himself has not made it happen. So whilst the purpose is good, the purpose is noble, by personal action, yes, the house happened, but the business has still not happened. And by the speaker's own admission, the purpose is not clear, the how to make it part is not clear, and the consistency is not clear. So how can that wish be made when that has not yet been accomplished? So that's where I find a bit of a disconnect with the purpose.
Thank you, DTM Farhaz. Sorry, someone
That's it.
saying
Yeah, up to you. Back to you.
Yeah. Coming to DTM Sujit. So yes, DTM Farhaz spoke about the purpose. Now, how did you feel was the speech development, and how effective was it in terms of value to the audience?
See, what I feel, and this is totally my personal opinion, is that if you look at the annals of speaking per se, instructional speaking or educational session type of speaking is a permissible type of speaking, but a very less connected type of speaking, going back to Farhaz, unless the person who is speaking has established authority by way of introduction or proof of concept in experience. So in this case, we had somebody who says that his only experience has been his life experience, and probably going to courses and seminars which he didn't find interesting at all. And yet he has a disconnect between the dreams, one one achieved and one going to be achieved, but he wants us to achieve something that he has not achieved and something which he has achieved. So it's whole bit of a confusing thing altogether in terms of the assembly of the content. Also, instructional speaking is very what I would say, rather patronizing and disconnecting, because we want to be instructed only when we go to somebody who we look up to. This was a risky attempt because we don't know Gordon from before. The ETA, what is his expertise, what is the trust factor, what is the authority he has on the domain. So these three things have to be ETA, or the EAT principle, expertise, authority, and trust, has to be established prior hand before you attempt an informational or an educational kind of instructional speech. However, had he turned the speech on its head by giving an inspirational account of how he started from humble backgrounds and how he built a house, and if he could do it, everyone else can, nobody would have had a problem, because that is something which everyone can learn from. Model science, it's good for everyone, good value, and that would have tied in perfectly to Faraz's the assertion of the noble topic with a noble intention. But here by taking the noble genre and giving us an instructional take on it, somewhere it fell through in the middle. It fell through in the middle.
Thank you, DTM Sujit. Coming to you, Nisha, while we will go back to the content later, but from an online perspective and delivery point of view, how did you feel the speaker come across?
Thank you, Toastmaster Divya. Now, gone are the days, okay, when we used to write speeches that were stage friendly. Okay, when the speech that had a lot of stage presence, where the contestant has a lot of stage presence, he could move on the stage. Now we need to focus on speeches that are screen friendly. That means it's all online. So we need to have a speech that is completely screen friendly. Now, in this particular speech, though I liked his confidence. Okay, he's a very confident speaker. He had prepared it well. And the way he started the speech asking this question, that do you have a dream? And he took a pause. So I liked that. But coming back to the online structure of contest, he needs to have a story that would enhance his facial expressions and hand movements, because now it's all screen friendly speeches. It's all about screen friendly speeches. All you have is your face and your voice. Okay. And I found that as per the content, he did not have those, emotions in his content. Why he did not have the emotions? Because he did not have a specific story. So he needs to first include a story that would have emotions. And as per the emotions, he needs to bring that expressions in his voice and on his face. And then he would, justify the online structure or format of contests. That is what I think that, it was lacking in his speech. Though he seemed to be a very confident speaker, but he did not have that emotion, the story with a lot of expressions and emotions to bring in facial expressions and hand movements and voice expressions in his speech.
Thank you, Nisha. But having said that, with the content that he presented, was there something he could have done to score on the delivery aspect? For instance, when he asked the question, or somewhere in the speech coming forward to emphasize on a point, having a closer contact, is there anything he could have done?
Right. As I said, I like the way he started the speech. When he asked the question, the way it should have been asked. He took a pause. That means he gave enough time to the audience to think and answer answer in their own minds. And then he started the speech. So that part was well. After that, his voice was monotonous. Okay. There was the way we say that he needs to control the pitch, pause, and pace. That part was not there. Number one. Second thing is, most of the times when he started the speech, he was standing in front, in his clapping like this. So reaches again. The gestures that he had was not as per the content. When he said that there are stories from rags to riches. So when he said rags, he was showing upward and then riches downward.
Yeah.
Okay. Now he needs to understand that as per the content, he needs to match the gestures. So these were some areas that I think that he needed improvement. Other than that, he seemed very confident, well prepared, but yes, he needs to work on those voice expressions, especially matching the content of the speech that he has.
Thank you, Nisha. Vidyam Farhaz, when it came to binding the speech together, that is in terms of the structure, on how it was structured, did you feel the speech was tight in the way it was written? Or did you feel that, the transitions and the opening and the conclusion?
I think the speech was structured reasonably well. I mean, for an audience and for someone who doesn't know Toastmaster Gordon, there clearly was an opening that I could connect to. There were those 3 different steps that he was speaking about, and I could kind of follow what was coming from that. And the summarization or the conclusion was also there. And what was strong about the conclusion was it was a strong call to action. And that is what kind of differentiates a very good international speech. So those aspects were certainly there. So there was an opening. There were those 3 beautiful steps that he was trying to teach us about. and the ending did have a strong call to action. So those aspects, I would say, are properly done. If you may permit, and with your permission, may I just add to something related to the previous question and on the terms on things about using the screen and what have you. These actual steps, the 3 steps, could have been structured on the 3 sides of the screen. Like, for instance, we could have one here, one in the middle, and one in the corner. So that could have been used, and that's one way of using the screen. The other thing is, I saw that there was opportunity for voice modulation, which was wasted. Like, say, for instance, the thing about the T-boy turning to a millionaire, rather than being said in one monotonous voice, you could have made fun out of it. T-boy becoming a millionaire? And that gives opportunity for also to come forward and use your face and the eyes, exactly what our champ Nisha was referring to, because that is the new norm. We got to make things appear on screen. So T-boy you see what I mean? And I'm trying to do it while I speak. So that's how we could convert the current script into a screen-friendly script. Similarly, there were other opportunities, not your dream, not spend time, define the purpose. These also have opportunity for being screen friendly with the right intonation, with the right voices and so on. So I just thought I'll add that to the previous question. Back to you, ma'am.
Thank you, DTM Farhan. DTM Sujit, now as a speaker who's looking to contest in an international contest and with the speech that he presented, we all know that speech development and speech value hold paramount importance. So what would be your suggestion to him moving forward if he has to work? You did give him a suggestion in your take on the previous question, but if he has to go about improving or enhancing the speech to perform better, what can he do?
2 things. First thing, he needs to buy a camera which can be mounted on top of the laptop called a reverse feedback camera. So he can actually see how he looks on the screen. And he will have to actually stand in the midpoint of the screen so that the left side and right side are equally balanced. Then he has to take care of the front field and the reverse field where he's going to step forward and step backward, effectively thereby creating a cross or a north, south, east, west in the speaking area. Then he has to do the dynamics and the devices that Faraz said. If he wants to emote with his face or something like that, he can take a clue from this year's World Championship winner, how he started on the side of the screen and then how it was like a motion picture from side to side. Although every speaker may not have that kind of histrionics and ability to emote on screen, but that's the reality now. But a reverse feedback camera, even for somebody like me, I do a lot of webinars, I do a lot of YouTube videos. It helps me to figure out where my face and body is going to be seen on screen. So number 1, invest in that. Number 2, very simple, for the international speech contest, there's a misconception that successful speeches are only of the motivational genre, which is not true. The international speech does not say that you need to motivate or you need to kill somebody and they need to come back to life or something. Nothing like that is there. You can do any speech. You can even talk about how butterflies pollinate flowers and you can win the World Championship of Public Speaking. Only thing is, you need to be sure about what you're trying to impart to the audience and what you want them to take back. So deconstruct the speech in reverse. Let him start with an intention. What am I trying to tell the audience? What do I want them to understand from it? And how do I want them to feel at the end of it? ICI. Intent follows content. Content follows impact. And impact is what follows through. So ICI. Whenever he engineers a speech, what is the intention behind which he is conveying the content that he's trying to convey? What content in terms of language, verbiage, vocabulary, and devices is he trying to convey it with? Is that understandable to his audience? Is the message universal? And impact. Some people get high when they hear fantastic vocabulary. Some people enjoy when they see a lot of motion and emotion on the screen. Some people enjoy in silence and tense moments. So depending on what his audience type is, he needs to structure it that way. So keep the camera or equipment, or there is a cheaper way to do this. Like, for example, if you see Nisha's screen, behind her head, there is a wire or something going on the wall. Now, if she looks at her laptop camera and she looks at the position of that wire, it has to dissect exactly the white pinhole light on the camera. That's the center of the screen. So she has to ensure that her head is exactly in the center. Move it left, move it right, see where it is bifurcating 50% of the screen, stand at that area. If you don't know what I meant, Harish, by the inverse camera is sometimes when we do recording, there is something called the monitor. Like old handy cams and all used to have that flip out screen where we could see how we are looking on camera. So you can get it. It's available in Dragon Mart and any Chinese store here, there, everywhere. It's just a mount which will actually feed what the screen is seeing. So you can alter your position accordingly. So to come back to your original question, intent, content, impact is paramount. And before even writing the speech, now the problem he's going to face now is based on all our recommendations, he has to do surgery with his speech, which is not a pretty thing to do. Before you start itself, leave it loose. And this is a tip one of my mentors had taught me a long time ago, is don't make your script too rigid that it cannot improvise on the spot. The problem with a script like this is it's instructional. It is 3-tiered, 3 steps, and it's like monkey bars, one to the next to the next. Any one step is taken out, the whole speech falls apart. It's too tight to accommodate any recommendations that are given without changing the speech or the speaker's character. So he needs to keep it like how we tailor a suit, no? Like with decent measurements, and then it's altered to purpose. The theme is good. It is a universal theme. Have a dream, find a way to do it, and you will reach greatness. This is a $3 trillion industry of motivational speaking, Anthony Robbins, etc., etc. But he is not the next Anthony. He might be the next Anthony Robbins. He's not Anthony Robbins yet. We need something like that if he is planning to major in this genre. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult, because even established people, like even your favorite film stars, nobody goes to watch the movie nowadays. So what is the authority framework is what we need to examine.
All right. Nisha, your closing thoughts. I mean, it need not be necessarily, with delivery standpoint, but overall as a speaker and his international speech, and you being there on that stage multiple times, how did the speech come across to you? Just final closing thoughts.
See, I always tell this to the contestants: when you're writing a speech, you have to look at the back of the judging ballot. Okay, there is a very particular question there: how effective the speech was. Was the speech able to hold the interest of the audience? And that is exactly what Mr. Govardhan needs to do. That he needs to see whether this speech is able to hold the interest of my audience from the beginning. The moment I say that, do you have a dream, till the end, that you have to make it happen. And for that, he needs to, again and again, I'm saying that he needs to bring a powerful story that has got all the masala. That means not mandatory humor. If he can handle humor, well and good. At least some emotions: happiness, joy, sorrow, surprise, shock, so that he can play with all those emotions on the screen. It is very, very important, because if you lose the interest of the audience, then it's gone. However powerful the message is, if the speech and the story is not interesting, it's gone. And only when the story is interesting, your presentation will be interesting. Okay, as DTM Sujit said, that you need to have a camera and you need to check how you appear and what you're doing. And I would like to add that you please place your camera on the top so that people can see the background where you're standing, because now we have this restriction. We can't use the stage the way we used to do earlier. So at least some space. Now, in this particular speech, he had 3 areas, and he said, point number 1, point number 2, and point number 3, he could have moved. But the audience needs to understand how he is moving. If we can see him up to the waist level, and if he's moving, it won't be effective. But if he places his camera on the top, and if the back stage is visible, and then he moves, then it becomes effective. Okay, so these are the things that he needs to take care of. He definitely needs to work on a good story that has got a lot of masala and a lot of ingredients in it.
Thank you to our evaluators. So Toastmaster Govardhan, just to summarize, do away from instructional kind of speaking, work on your intent, content to create an impact, as DTM Sujit said. Have an interesting story. Maybe you can do away with your business story and just focus on your getting the house story, make it more interesting, as DTM Nisha said. And the call to action was there, but I think the script needs to be a little more tied together with a single story, and then you're good to go. So thank you very much. This evaluation went stretched a little longer, but a lot of aspects that are relevant to all the speakers were covered here. So maybe we will definitely be on time for the next evaluation. So back to you, Toastmaster Elena.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, DTM Divya. Moving on to our second speaker, Toastmaster Rakesh. Can I please have Toastmaster Rakesh switch on his video?
My video is on.
Yes, and Zoom Master, could you please spotlight Toastmaster Rakesh? Yes, Toastmaster Rakesh, could you please repeat after me? I love myself.
I love myself.
I confirm Toastmaster Rakesh is visible and audible. Toastmaster Rakesh, get lost. Get lost, Toastmaster Rakesh. Over to you, Toastmaster Rakesh.
A gorgeous, elegantly dressed lady is sitting in deep contemplation at a bar and sipping her champagne. A smart, perhaps over-smart man, handsome, walks up to the bar, tells the bartender, I want a martini, shaken, not stirred. And then looks at the girl, at the lady, and says, extending his hand, Bond, James Bond. The girl rolls her eyes, looks him up and down, and says, lost, get lost. Now, I'm not asking you to get lost because then I will not have an audience. But getting lost has been a key to my happiness. And I wonder if it can be yours too. Let me take you back to a time I was 12 years old. My maternal grandfather was a broker. And whatever commissions he made on the Delhi Stock Exchange, he lost them while speculating on stocks himself. Of course, the old fogey didn't know anything, and I knew better. So I asked him, and to humor me, he agreed. I told him, buy this stock. The company was Delhi Cloth and General Mills. At 36, I'd seen it go up and down. I bought 100 shares. I had no money, but he humored me. In 2 days' time, the stock went up by 2 rupees to 38, and I made 200 rupees, which was 4 times my pocket money. So he said, okay, take your money back now. You've made the money, you've cut the transaction. I said, no, hold it. A few days later, the stock went down to 36. I had figured it all out. I had visions of being Warren Buffett. I was going to buy DCM. I told him, buy. Again, he bought at 36. And then the law of gravity took over. The company never saw 36 again. 34, 32, 28. I had lost over 1,000 rupees, which I didn't have at that time. So what? I had gone from being Warren Buffett to Donald Trump, and not being the president, no, to being bankrupt. But here, where I learned, I read a story at that time called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, that in your mind, you can be anything you want to be. Sometimes your dreams don't come true. And that is specially aimed at gods in Punjabi who spoke before me. Sometimes they don't come true. But in my mind, I have the capacity of getting lost. I'm called the absent-minded professor, in fact. And in my mind, I will be Warren Buffett. Let me take you to another incident. I was 13 years old, and by default, because other players didn't come, I was included in my class cricket team. And there it was, their opening batsman skying a catch, and it was coming directly into my hands. It was what they call a lolly of a catch. I couldn't possibly miss. And as it came down to my hands, off my hands went and it fell on the ground. What? I was 13 years old. I was just too scared that I'll injure myself while trying to hold the ball. I let it slip. But again, as they say, my thoughts, my imagination, which was the key to my happiness, came to my rescue. And in my mind, I was better than Virat Kohli would ever be or Sachin Tendulkar ever was. Now, that's not to say that dreams don't come true. Disneyland, when it was opened, Walt Disney had just died. His wife was receiving condolence messages, and one person told her, too bad that Walt is not here to see his theme park. She said, he saw it. He saw it better than we will ever see it. He saw it in his dreams. He saw it in his dreams, and that's why we are here today. Some dreams come true, some don't. As was the theme song of Pretty Woman. But that doesn't mean we should stop dreaming. Today, I may not win the competition. The judges here may have their own comments that I will never win the world contest of speaking. But never mind. Why do I give a damn? In the words of Clark Gable, in my mind, I will be a winner. I will be the world champion of public speaking. So, the key to happiness can be there even when we don't achieve our goals. For me, getting lost in my thoughts has been my savior. Perhaps it can be for you as well. Over to you, contest chair.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Rakesh. Now, I request Toastmaster Divya to handle the moderating the panel.
Thank you, Elna. Now, since there was a stark observation here, I will jump straight to Nisha first. Nisha, the speech was delivered sitting. Now, in the current framework of contest, how do you see this? Does it qualify at all, or your thoughts, please?
No, it is not about qualification or disqualification. It is all about the way you are presenting the speech. As I said, that we now gone are the days where now we have moved to online contests, screen-friendly speeches. But before I come to the suggestions and evaluation, let me tell you that you have a beautiful voice, very powerful voice. But did you do justice to it? That is the question. Because and the speech was wonderful. It had all the emotions that I was talking about earlier. It had all the ingredients, especially when he started with, a gorgeous lady sitting in deep contemplation, sipping wine from the glass. And a man came and said, extending his hands, Bond. James Bond. So see, these are the areas where he could use his voice. He could have made his voice even deeper. One thing, he would have taken pauses when he said, Bond, James Bond. And then the lady looked at him and she said, get lost, or the dialogue was. So he should have taken pauses, said it in a very expressive voice. So that is the area where I felt that, oh my God, this man is blessed with a voice and he's not using it. And his story had all the ingredients, expressions, emotions where he could have used it. Number one. Second, coming to the point, sitting down. Unless and until you have a problem, you can't stand and speak, you can sit and speak. That is okay. But if you're physically okay, please stand and speak, because that is when you are going to, use your gestures, hand movements, you are going to move, which is very, very important. And in his speech, he could have done that, because he had two different stories in his speeches. And in both the speeches, he could have divided the space, whatever space he had, and presented the story. And especially the story where he had this cricket story, when he said, and there came the opening batsman and he hit the ball in the air, and it was coming down, and the moment it came, just fell down. So this is how he had to narrate the story. So I think he has got a great storyline. I would not comment on the content part, because DTM Farhaz and DTM Sujit are there. But presentation wise, there were a lot of areas where he could done a lot of things with his voice, with expressions, with the pause, with the pace, and with the energy. Because there were areas when he said that, some dreams come true, some do not. Those were the areas where he had to put that energy and excitement and enthusiasm. And he has to work a lot on the presentation. And yes, as you said, and I completely agree and recommend and suggest, please stand and speak. Please do not sit.
Thank you, Nisha. Coming to DTM Farhaz, the topic and the story. How relevant was it to you, or what value did it add to you as an audience to what the speaker was trying to say or convey, or the call to action? So you say. I mean, so how did it all tie up for you?
I think you were probably reading my mind when you asked this question, because of the few things that I have circled in my notes was the title of the speech, which is Get Lost, and then the points that were being emphasized after every story, which was essentially about dreams, and that some dreams don't come true, some do, but hey, what the heck. That was essentially it. Now, I found that whilst having the title as Get Lost created a certain suspense and also gave rise to one super humor at the beginning, there was no connection from what was being said and the points being made after each story to the title, and by extension to the message that was being conveyed at the end. So I would strongly recommend, whilst we can retain the opening story about James Bond and Get Lost, because I thought that was really funny and really witty, so that's beautiful. But maybe let's rethink the title a bit, because that way we could have the audience a little bit more connected. I mean, at least me, a bit more connected to what is being said, because I kept thinking, okay, what relevance does Get Lost have to dreams coming true or not coming true? And in that context, just let me, I'm digressing slightly, but this is something that I must point out. Otherwise, I will not do justice to what this panel is about. There is a new rule coming from this year, which says that we should not refer to any of the previous speakers when we are doing contests. Let's start at club level and let's practice not to refer to our fellow contestants. And that way we will not do it at the on the real stage, because trust me, if we do it here, chances are we are just going to spontaneously talk about the previous speaker on stage. So let's maybe just pay a bit of attention to that and not refer to any of the previous speakers. So coming back to the question, yes, there was a bit of disconnect in the title and what was being said. So whilst what is being said is good, it's nice, I love it, maybe we should rethink the title, but don't get rid of the Get Lost story, because that was hilarious.
DTM Sujit, going back to your thought on intent, content, and impact, while the speaker had wonderful language, he quoted some really nice quotes. So yeah, he had a mastery over his language, but in terms of the way the story was structured, what is your suggestion? What he could have done to really create an impact?
There are two things. One, I took his title quite realistically and literally, because after the first 2.5, 3 minutes, I got lost.
Yeah.
Then I could not figure out what was happening, even though he told me I didn't want to get lost, but somehow I got lost. I remembered Rajesh Khanna from 1965 to 1975. Any movie, whether it had a script or not, he was enough, he will carry it. So with Rakesh, the beauty is that his voice is so smooth and garrulous and nice. It's like we have Sita Sagaran. Whatever she says, even if she says, I'm going to murder you, you'll be like, please go ahead, ma'am. It's so nice and sweet. So the voice was the one trump card. It was such a sexy, seductive voice that we didn't care what was going on. But in an international contest, you have to care about what is going on, because that is what the speech is about. It's not about listening to a radio broadcast. Had this been a radio play, it would have been a perfect award-winning one. But since it is an international speech, to carry on from where Faraz left off, the connections between the stories and what he was trying to say was not at all established. The story about the stock market and going ups and downs in life and getting lost and picking yourself back again, bouncing back, that was fairly relevant. The cricket story of losing the catch, letting down, after that it meandered a bit. And then it was a bit tongue-in-cheek, we don't care, but if you go on the international stage and I don't really care about what the judges think about me, you better think twice, because judges are human beings also, and they have feelings. I'm not saying we will exercise our feelings, but I have seen cases where men go and bash women on stage, wife bashing, this, that. When the judges panel is women, you are not going to expect them to give Valentine's Day cards to you at the end of that. So be mindful. You can be cocky, you can be a bit snarky, but don't test your luck, because it doesn't work out always. And you can do all these gimmickry only if you are a master of the craft. Today, I felt that there was over dependence on the voice and the vocabulary, which is a strong suit. Each of us has strong suits, but all that cannot compromise old school content and connection to the content. And definitely a cardinal sin of pulling from another contestant. In 2 seconds, this would have been disqualified, case closed. Probably he's new, but message to all the speakers: do not pull from any other speaker's speeches, no matter how smart it may be or pun intended or otherwise. You're walking down a slippery slope. And very important, like Faraz said very correctly, what was he trying to tell us? The connection between the stories. One thing is, if you're using stories, either go for 3 in sets of 3, or a single story which you can carry out throughout. Otherwise, what happens? Bond, get lost, I'm still in the bar. Before I got out of the bar looking at the sexy lady, you have already taken me to the stock market. Then I'm getting a hang of Warren Buffett and Walter Mitty, and then you're again taking me to the cricket ground. Then you're saying, I'm already confused. You're saying, I don't care about what you think about. Thank you very much. I'm like, what's going on? So overall, the knitting and the stitching of the speech was all over the place. Plus, if that wasn't enough, he pulled from a speaker also. So for me, this was a case closed. It would not have made anywhere on the ballot in the top 3 at all. We would have just marked it for formality purposes. But definitely among the speakers 1 and 2 we have seen now, sir, you definitely have a gift of a voice. I wish I had your voice. And I have never seen anybody after Mark Hunter sit and deliver a speech powerfully in terms of the vocal variety element alone. You didn't need gestures. That is itself testimony to how powerful your voice is. Hone that, back it with content, practice well, have a simple story which everybody can take home, and literally you will have the audience eating from your hand. You have a gift. I'm not saying this to make you overconfident, and the people in the room know that I'm very miserly with compliments. You have a gift. Please don't abuse it or abandon it. Hone it, because it's something that not many other people have. But it does not compensate for the lack of content or the lack of preparation or delivery. Yeah.
I think more or less all our 3 panel evaluators have touched upon what really, because the starting of your speech was really, we were looking forward to what's to come. The way you built it up in the beginning with the story and the humor, after a while, it just fell flat. Because like Sujit said, it went all over and we truly got lost. So yes, maybe you took your topic very, very seriously when you delivered your speech, but moving forward, I think what Nisha said, of standing up, delivering, using your voice to your advantage, because it's a big advantage that you hold, especially in this screen and otherwise also, even if you were live on stage, it's a big plus for you. Please use all of that, tie up your speech, work on your transitions, have your story adding to your message and not taking away from it. And I'm sure you won't be lost in the future. Thank you, and back to you, Elna, for the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Diti and Divya. Our third speaker for the day is Toastmaster Mohammed Ashik. I request Toastmaster Mohammed to please switch on your video. And I request the Zoom master to please spotlight our speaker. Toastmaster Mohammed, could you please repeat the statement, I love myself?
I love myself.
I hereby confirm that Toastmaster Mohammed is visible and audible. Toastmaster Mohammed, two sides of a coin. Two sides of a coin. Toastmaster Mohammed. Over to you, Toastmaster Mohammed.
I'm going to toast this 2 rupee coin. Heads or tails? What do you want to take? Oh, it's a head. So what? Do we have a choice? Can we just take one side of the coin and neglect the other side? Just think about it. 60 specialist doctors have been terminated in a span of just 1 month. And Ashik, I really don't. If I come, this is what a specialist doctor from a reputed clinic told me a couple of months back. Now, let me tell you the story completely. My daughter was having cold. So we wanted to visit our family doctor and we visited the clinic. When we sat in a corner in the clinic, want to be safe, make sure we are safe. When our doctor was called, we entered the room. We could feel the deep sense of the deep smell of the cleaning sanitizer in the doctor's room. The doctor was prescribing the previous patient's prescription. He was signing it, and then he sanitized his hand and then asked me, "Hi, Ashik, long time. How are you?" That's true. I'm visiting this clinic after 9 long months. You've not visited any clinic or hospital during this 9 months. The doctor checked my daughter and he said, "It's a normal cold. Don't worry. I'm going to prescribe you a good nasal inhaler. That will do." And this doctor is a tall, handsome guy. And while he was prescribing the medicine for my doctor, I could see a sense of dullness in his face. That's not the face I saw before. And after finishing the prescription, he asked me actually, "How is the job, Ashik? Is everything okay?" And I know this doctor a little before. So I just told him, frankly, business is literally done. I'm not doing good. I'm trying my best to hold on to my job. And this is what he replied. "Ashik, you know what? 60 specialist doctors have been terminated. And I really don't know if I come back tomorrow and have this job. I don't know how I'm going to manage this because they have reduced the working days. They've reduced the salary by 50%. Two of my kids are in school. And I have to send some money to my parents back in India. And there are a lot of things I have to do, Ashik. I really don't know how I'm going to manage this." I was really shocked and surprised because I never expected this thing to happen in hospital sector or clinic sector. I know in oil and gas, construction, and other sectors, this is happening. It's business is bad because of this pandemic. And I asked him, "Why?" What is the reason? Why is this happening in hospitals? And this is what he told me. Ashik, normally in winter season, there used to be a lot of people coming with allergies, with cold, with fever. Now, as everybody is wearing masks and gloves, the cases have drastically reduced. And people have started believing in home remedies. And then he added, most of the surgeries are put on hold. So the $1 million equipment are just lying there in the hospitals and clinics for no use. Now, friends, when we see one side of the coin, it's really positive that the patients have reduced. The people are actually not going to hospitals for silly reasons. It's good. It's really good. And I'm visiting the clinic after 9 long months. But on the other side of the coin, it's not good. The hospitals are struggling, the doctors are struggling, the clinics, the pharmacies, people are losing jobs, people are getting reduction in salary. It's not good. But there is a silver lining in this whole cloud. And that what I felt was the positive thinking or the belief in people to take home remedies and treat silly reasons. And I'm sure these doctors and nurses all will survive this thing, survive this phase. I'm pretty sure, because every negative has a positive. Now, let me tell you a very short story. Another story. Around 4 months back, my management told me, Ashil, we know that the COVID is there, we know that the business is done, but if you are not meeting the sales target, we are really sorry, Ashil, we have to close this Dubai branch office. This is what my management told me. Now, when I reached my home, I told my wife this complete story, and this is what she replied. Ashil, you are the only one staff in your office. You're managing the sales, you're managing the after sales, you're managing the site work, you're doing the finance. Come on, Ashik, just talk to your CEO. He's a nice guy. Talk to him. Inform him. He will understand the situation. Luckily to me, around 10 days after this discussion, my CEO visited Dubai. We had to go to Abu Dhabi for meeting a project, for meeting a client and a contractor for a $1 million project. And during the meeting, the contractor, in front of the end client and other subcontractors, informed us this. Mr. Chan, he is my CEO. Mr. Chan, we are not saying that Ashik is not supporting us. Ashik is giving us a very good support. But please understand, there are a lot of competitors. 4 of your competitors have got huge setup in UAE. And you're running this business with only one person? That's not fair. As a buyer, how can we give this $1 million project to you? Please understand it. Now, this is something which is going on from last 3 to 4 years. I've never complained to my CEO about this. I've never complained. When my CEO was flying back to Korea, we had a meeting very close to the Dubai airport. And this is what he told me. Ashik, you hire one more assistant engineer. You hire one more technician. And I'll make sure we'll give you the support for the coming years. On the one side, there was constant pressure that I had to achieve. But on the other side, I was optimistic. I was hopeful, actually. I was believing in my performance, believing in my process. I was sincerely working. I was really hard on my company, on my beliefs. And I really hope if you start believing in your processes, in your strengths, any challenges, any crisis, you will be able to overcome it. Thank you so much. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Mohammed. Now I hand over the stage to Toastmaster DTM Divya to moderate the panel.
Thank you, Elna. DTM Farhaz, 2 sides of a coin. What are your 2 cents on the topic and the speech? How did they tie up?
All right. My biggest qualm I have with the way Toastmaster Mohammed Ashik presented the speech was there was too much of story very long stories, and of course, there's other things I would like to point out about the stories later, but just to answer the question. But the final end result, the message, was delivered in like 12 seconds. When the red light was on, we were still not even at the message. A story like this, by the time we get to green light, we should be building our base for the message. We shouldn't be telling new stories after the green light because the point has been made. It's pretty clear which way it's going. So let's get to the message. So whilst it's nice, it's a strong message. There are two sides to every coin. Let's start building up that message at the green light and not 6 seconds after the red light, which means it's a rush job. And therefore that all important impact of the speech value component, all of that does not get credited to you, Mohammed. So that's that. There are other things I would like to talk about, but maybe we'll pass it around to the other panelists, and if it's not covered in my second round, I come. So the long story short is, whilst the speech was built up too much, I just didn't get too much value out of it because the message was just 12 seconds at the end.
Sujit, coming back, because I'm still stuck at the message, the title of the speech and the stories which were quoted in the speech. The first speech was about the doctor, the flip side that, the patients are going down and the industry is suffering. At the same time, we are doing home remedies. That story and the second story, which was his own story about the pressures and how he believes in himself. How do these two stories tie up to tell the audience what he's trying to say? I mean, what two sides of the coin is he bringing about? I as an audience, really did not get that bit.
I think he was talking about two sides of two different coins. That's what was happening. Because it's not the same coin. That is point number one. Yeah. Point number two is I felt like how I used to buy Pofaki when I was 5 years old. The packet will be big, but the chips will be very little in that. There'll be a lot of air only in that. Like Faraz was saying, the whole message is in the last 12 seconds. And 12 seconds is too short. What I felt was he should have focused on one story. He should have started with the coin, ended with the coin. Point in reference, I see something in you. I don't know what it is. Dhananjay's speech, he started with the rose in the dustbin and he ended with picking up the rose from the dustbin, throwing it to the audience. So that is a reverse loop hook. If he had started with tossing the coin and saying there are two sides, and if he had ended with tossing the coin and saying that it doesn't matter whether it's heads or tails, as long as you know how to make the best of the situation that the coin tosses in front of you, that would have been a nailed down straight message gone through. Instead of that, why did he have to introduce the next story? Because his pathos is not greater than the pathos of the frontline community any day. And why did he waste a lot of time with the prescription and the tall man and all? Get to the point, man. Like, what are you trying to say? And we will ignore everything else. Like, there were certain times in pronunciation, I felt daughter and doctor sounded the same. Like, all that you keep aside because we are not master speakers of English as a first language. Even I have accent problems. But the core, the essence, I felt it was like a Pofaki packet. My 1 dirham, hard-earned 1 dirham, which I fought and bought from my father. I went to the canteen thinking that it will have 400 grams. Turns out to be 50 grams of Pofaki and like 300 grams of gas. That could have been tallied a bit better. Again, going back to the basics, the speaker should never forget what they are trying to say and what they want us to understand. And what is the device and methodology they are planning to use to get that. Plus points to him because he had engaging storytelling skills. He bought a prop of a coin, even though it was small to see in the distance. He did very well to balance it because many people, they lose the coin on the stage when they toss it. They are that much in tension. He managed to do all that properly. But had he used the coin in the beginning and the end and created a dynamic loop between the coin to coin, that would have been perfect starting ending. And like Faraz correctly pointed out, 12 seconds is too fast for anybody to absorb or understand anything. it was like, too much anticipation, but less explosion at the end.
Coming back to the coin, Nisha, did you feel that the prop was actually distracting the audience throughout? Because he was fiddling with the prop while he was delivering the speech all through.
Yes. Yeah. And as everyone said, he's a great storyteller, no doubt about it. Okay. He has got a great stage presence also. If he's there on the stage, he has got a great stage presence, good personality. But the prop, what was he doing with the prop? Okay. Now, whenever you use a prop in any speech, that prop should actually convey the message. That is what the importance of a prop is. Now, two sides of a coin, the title, yes, it connects with the prop he used, but what was he doing with the prop all the time? It was very, very distracting. Okay. He could have, first flipped the prop, and yes, again, we were not able to see whether it was head or tail, right? So he could have brought it in front of the camera and showed it to us that, okay, this is head or tail, one thing. Second thing, after doing that, he could have placed it somewhere or dropped it down. Nobody is going to see it. But playing with it was actually distracting. Number one. Second thing is, as everybody said, DTM Farhaz also mentioned that there were too many words, too long sentences, stories, such a long story. And because of that, his speed, the pace at which he spoke, he was too fast. He was rushing through the speech. So he needs to work on that, either bring in one story or two short stories if he wants to have two short stories, so that he can maintain the pauses and the pace at the same time. And again, coming back to distracting mannerisms, I saw him wiping, his eyebrows and then touching his nose a couple of times. These are all, he was doing it probably, he was not conscious about it, but it happened. And when it happens, it is very, very distracting to the audience and to the judges. So he needs to take care of all these distracting mannerisms. Otherwise, he has a lot of energy. He presented it with confidence. And as I said, great stage presence. But yes, try to understand why he is using the prop. And after using it, he has to keep it somewhere or drop it down so that he doesn't play with it all the time. And since it was all about two sides of a coin, I could understand that he was talking about the positive side and the negative side. He could have divided the stage into two. And whenever he's talking about all the negative things happening in his life, or whoever the character is, he could have moved onto one side, narrating the story, the negative part there, and then moving on to the next side, narrating, giving us the positive side there. Then only it would be of the speech. Otherwise, it would be all confusing.
Since you spoke about characters also, wasn't there room for voice modulation and a little bit of role play in his speech, because there were so many characters in it? Nisha? Is Nisha stuck? Yeah.
Dialogues and conversations. Is it to, it's me, right?
Yeah, it's to you. Since we are on the topic of delivery, it is to you. Yeah.
So yes, there were characters. There was a doctor, and there was some conversation that happened with his wife. He need to work on the voice modulation there, when the doctor was saying that it's so difficult, and patients are there, and then his wife consoling him and motivating him that yes, you can do that. He needs to bring in that the expressions in which his wife said that dialogue, the way she delivered the dialogue. He has to bring that expression, the same very expression in his voice, so that we would be able to understand. Now here what happened was his story, his conversations, his expressions all were on the same
place. Thank you, Nisha. DTM Farhan, since we spoke about call to action and the message, the core essence of his speech coming in very, very late, what would your advice be to a speaker on when to really, bring about that call to action so that it really sinks in with the audience when he's closing, he or she is closing?
As I kind of alluded to at the beginning, normally my personal preference is that by the time the green light comes on, at the 5th minute stage, I have finished with my storytelling. I don't bring in any more new stories. I don't bring new content ever to the speech. From the time the green light comes on, I'm building up my message. by the time the yellow light comes on, I'm actually delivering the main message, the crux of my speech, and the call to action that follows as a result of that message. So I have a clear 2 minutes to start building up my message, and the last 1 minute is the culmination of all of that, whereby I put in that final message and the call to action, and that way I also make sure I don't go overboard. So my sincere advice here is, there's too much of unnecessary detail in the doctor story. Like, we don't really need to know whether he's sanitized or not. It doesn't matter. We don't need, really, it doesn't matter if the doctor is tall and handsome, because his daughter is not going to be proposed to the doctor later on in life. um, the dialogues creation, the characterizations are important. And one bit of confusion I found, the first story, which was the longer story, we had him and the doctor and of course the daughter playing a minor role. But in the second story, we had a deluge of characters. The wife came in, the CEO came in, the contractor came in, and that brought in a bit of confusion. So either or, use this story or use the second one, build up on that, and at the 5th minute, let's start finishing the storytelling, because that's where the inspiration, that's where the motivation, that's where the persuasion should start off. Yellow light, definitely it's time for the message and the call to action and to finish off. Back to you.
Thank you, DTM Faraz. So as a speaker, when you craft a speech, if anything that you write is not contributing to the purpose of your speech, you should just eliminate it. I mean, that's the simple rule. But coming to your point of reverse loop hook, DTM Sujit, we see a lot of speakers using iterations, as in repeating their message so that it sinks in, or bringing back what they opened with in the closing. How effective is that as a technique? Because we see a lot of speakers following it in their international speech crafting.
It's part of neuro-linguistics, because the brain is wired that way. There are two effects that you need to know. One is called the primacy effect. The other one is called the recency effect. The primacy effect states that the first 25 to 30 seconds, whatever you state and bang with, that is what will rivet itself in the brain of the listener. Same way, the recency effect, what has been said in the last 30 seconds before the red light comes on and the gray starts, that's what the audience will latch onto, and that's when the judges wake up to tally their ballot sheets. So this first part and the last part, putting it in Faraz's language, the first 2.5 minutes and the last 2.5 minutes, this is where you need to bring the heavy duty dynamite and blast it, because whatever happens in the between of that is actually connecting the first and the end. That's the main thing. And coming back to the point, how to structure your speech, I'll give you a very important, easy tip. Take a business card, standard business card, which you give anybody, turn it the other side. You know the space, white space from one end to another end. Try to distill the theme of your speech into one line which can fit from one end to the other end. If you cannot say it in that many words, it's not worth to go on the international stage. Your message should be that crystal clear. If you can fit it from end to end of a business card in 5 to 7 words or less, you've got a winning speech. Otherwise, you're meandering all over the place.
Thank you very much. I think, Ashik, sorry for being, we may be a little critical here as evaluators, but the intent is for you to grow as speakers. So please take it positively. And with that, and this goes for all the previous 2 speakers as well. I'm sorry, I didn't mention it there. But back to you, Elna.
Madam Moderator, yeah. Can I just, if you may, make one observation about Toastmaster Ashik's role, the place? There was, the sound was echoing quite a bit. And this is one problem we face in online settings where we find sometimes the sound is echoing. And that is probably because he is speaking from a closed room. If you're speaking from a closed room, try to see if there is material in the room that can absorb the sound, like curtains or beds or things like that. And if you don't have such things, keep at least a door or something open, because you don't want this echo to ruin what you're trying to say. So, and this goes for everybody, it's a general comment. Have absorbent material for sound if possible. If not, try to have a place where there is no echo. Back to you.
Divya, one more thing. If you want to take this to the next level, what I do when I actually record my podcasts or my YouTube videos, I've taken 4 wooden pallets of around 1.5 times my sitting height, and enclose them with thermocol and cardboard on either side with holes drilled into them. And I put a towel below my door and on the window sills. That creates an effective telephone booth setup. So nothing can go around. But of course, when you're standing and delivering a speech, it may not work. You may need a larger kind of cardboard apparatus, but it's a portable soundproofing device that you can construct. Hardly costs like $50. And you have to go and rummage old garbage for cardboard cartons. But it's, and if you know somebody in logistics, you'll get the pallets for free also. But it's a long-term thing you can use.
Thank you, DTM Sujit. But just adding to that, all the masterclass participants for online speech contests, it's a must that you go and visit the recording of Linda Mary Miller. She had given very, very apt, relevant points. She's dissected, how you have to deliver online. So very, very important points mentioned there. You must definitely go and listen to that recording. Sorry, Elna, back to you for the next speaker.
Thank you so much, DTM Divya. Our fourth speaker for the day is Toastmaster Udaya Lakshmi. I request Toastmaster Udaya to please switch on your video. And thank you, Zoom Master, for pinning her. Toastmaster Udaya, could you please repeat this sentence? I love myself.
I love myself.
I hereby confirm that Toastmaster Udaya is visible and audible. Toastmaster Udaya Lakshmi, the power of pause. The power of pause. Toastmaster Udaya Lakshmi. Over to you, Toastmaster Udaya.
About 2 years ago, I stood in front of my heavily pregnant wardrobe and exercised the power of the pause. I stood there, gave a glance, top to bottom, bottom to top. I have nothing to wear. Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you share the same feeling? Each and every time you look at the wardrobe. Now, unfortunately, my mother, who was sitting right next to me, did not share the same feeling. She peered into my wardrobe from behind me. This is what happens when you have too many clothes. Now, I don't agree with my mama. Mama, you don't understand. It's different these days. She sat me down and said, do you remember that day back when you were in grade 3, when you had to receive that award for being the best student? She sent me back several years. Don't ask me how many, lest I might reveal my age. That evening, before the D-Day, she was sewing my school uniform. Ma, I told you I won't wear that torn uniform. Why didn't you buy me a new one? I'm going onto the stage. Don't worry, dear. This will be as good as new. And as good as new it was. My mother was a magician. All moms are, aren't they? Something changed in the last couple of years. But what has changed? I still remember back in those days, we didn't have these many clothes. My mother would buy us a couple of pairs of clothes, maybe 3 or 4 a year, a couple for festivals, a few more, maybe 1 or 2 for my birthday. And once in 6 months, she had this ritual. She would sit in front of our family wardrobe. You have heard it right. It's the family wardrobe. The whole family shared just one. And she would sort the clothes. The good ones, the not so good ones, and the good ones that we have outgrown. The good ones went back in. Not so good ones became our daily wear. And the good ones we have outgrown went into a suitcase to be transported to that aunt whose children were younger to us. And this is how it was. And no one minded it. But today, I think twice before I give a pair of clothes my son has outgrown to someone else. The same question again. What has changed? Priorities? Purchasing ability? Advertisements? Easy access? What not? And of course, fail. That one word that anyone, even if sleeping, will wake up and run to the store, make a beeline, me included. And I would come back with trolleys full of clothes, some of which were beautiful on the mannequins. They looked quite okay on me. Somehow when I got back home, they didn't look so good at all. So I put it aside for tomorrow. But unfortunately, the tomorrow never came. And so my wardrobe was full of clothes, but I still felt I had nothing. A couple of years ago, I heard a motivational speech by one of the people I most admire, Dr. Sudha Murthy, who is the founder of Infosys Foundation. And she says, I do not buy clothes for myself. I do with what I have and what people give me. This sent me to reflection mode. If a person who is a multi-millionaire can do this, can't I? Doesn't she have the power to purchase anything she likes on the earth? But she's still content with what she has. Why not me? And from that day on, for the last 1.5 years, I haven't bought a single garment for myself, except the bare necessities. And I'm doing fine. I do have my challenges, but I didn't need retail therapy at all. Somehow, things have fallen in place. And these two incidents not only sent me to a reflection mode, but also to the research mode. Being a teacher, I can't help it. I found out that the garment industry contributes to pollution so much that it's the second largest polluter. And it provides enough carbon footprint, more than all the international airlines put together and all the maritime transport put together. And in the last 20 years, people have been buying more and more. Today, each of us buys 60% more than what we bought 20 years ago. Coming back to the same question, what can we do about it? Very simple. Each one of us is bestowed with this special power, the power of the pause, which I have started exercising. Each time I felt I needed a garment, I picked it up, looked at it, imagined myself in it, put it aside. I'll come back for you tomorrow. But the tomorrow never came, which meant that I didn't really need it at all. And this has helped me to do my little bit to reduce the carbon footprint. Now, each one of us is bestowed with this incredible power, the power of the pause, the purchasing pause. Exercise it and do your bit, because like they say, little drops of water make a mighty ocean. Our tiny efforts will help in making this world a better place. So I have been exercising my power of pause. Will you? Over to you.
Thank you so much. Now I request DTM Divya to please move forward with moderating the panel.
I actually got lost in the speech, but nevertheless, let's begin with DTM Sujit this time. DTM Sujit, the power of the pause, which I think Udaya Lakshmi used very effectively even during her speech. What was your take on how the speech was constructed and how it eventually served its purpose?
I think the speech primarily she did very well by taking a universal topic. Now, the need to reflect, stop, think, and totally look at our priorities and setting them and all that is a universal message across cultures, across genders, whatever it might be. Even though retail therapy may be an iffy subject for different sets of people, but the necessity to declutter your life, have a Marie Kondo kind of an approach, and be minimalist even after having access to everything you can, and exercising restraint instead of excess, that is a universal timeless message. And I think Udaya did very well on capturing that message quite well. She also took us through 3 stories, which is the preferred modus, and she started with a very relatable story of how her mother started categorizing the clothes in her closet from the subcontinent. Even I'm sure Faraz will also relate to it, that we continuously do this even now. So it was very relatable to all of us, and across cultures we hand down clothes. Now children may not want them because they would rather prefer new otherwise, but overall I think she related very well. The her strengths, which were, one, the fact was she was using, I think, Apple earpods, which did not have a wire, so they looked like earrings, but later on I realized that they are headphones. So very cleverly done on that count. And by the way, her settings at home had a natural stage speaking area, because she had a linear, I don't know what that was, behind her, and there was a picture frame on the left which effectively boxed it. If you're a photographer, you will know the zones in terms of photography. So I don't know whether she did it on purpose, but it all came together for her as far as the stage layout and the visual layout was concerned. Content wise also she did well. She has no fear of the camera, very articulate, quite eloquent with what she wanted to say. But her own skill, I think, became her greatest enemy in this speech. This I felt like I was hearing somebody teaching me something or telling me a story like I was a 5-year-old kid. The teacher in her dominated the speaker in her. Even the enunciations or the modulations were more like, children, once upon a time there
Exactly.
was a giant in the forest. Now that should be, it will relate to certain sections of the audience. I'm not saying it's bad, but after some time I'm like, okay, but beyond the Mary Poppins, what do I have to take home from the speech? Lastly, coming to Faraz's observation of the previous speaker, the core message was so beautiful and so nice. I think she could have delved a bit more, devoted a bit more time to go more deeply into it. I like the fact that she ended with the question and questioned us like, what are you going to do? But I wanted the impact to be a bit more severe. Like Faraz said, she should have dedicated the last 2 minutes, 50 seconds to reinforcing the concept what she was trying to hammer in terms of minimalism and exercising choice even when you have the full buffet open to you. Otherwise, very well selected topic, uh, nicely done, totally comfortable in her space, easy to understand language, time mastery is good, segmentation of the topic is good, gave some good statistics also. I did not know that the garment
Clothing
industry is
industry.
having the second largest footprint. In fact, now I would be happier traveling business class than wearing clothes, if you ask me. So that way, so many things were a revelation today, but this is the only area for improvement. And by far, without prejudice, throughout all the speakers we have seen, my personal favorite would be this on the scale of who scored the best on the ballot today.
Yeah.
So far.
And I agree with what DTM Sujit says, that you could have probably expanded and not limited it to just retail therapy. It could be expanded to decluttering your life and moving away from excess. Basically, that could have been the core of your.
Yeah, if she had bought a Zen story somewhere in
Yeah,
between, it would have sealed the deal.
Yeah. Nisha, coming to you, how effectively did she use her screen, her pauses, her voice, her gestures? In terms of delivery, what really stood out for you in her speech?
In terms of delivery, as DTM Sujit said, the way she modulated the voice, to an extent, it was good. But again, I also felt that one teacher is standing there and telling me a story. So what she could have done was to incorporate some conversational style of speaking rather than, going into that teacher mode. She has a great voice and she tried to bring in all the expressions in her voice. On her face she had those, the moments, the twinkling moment when she raised her eyes and she came in front of the camera. She did it very well. Now she had characters in the speech. Okay, now when you have characters, and she had a great eye contact, let me tell you that. But when you have characters, your characters do not look at the camera and speak. Your characters will look at you and speak. So when her mother or grandmother is telling her something, the grandmother needs to look at her and tell her. When she is talking to the person, she has to look at the person and talk, and not into the camera, because the character is not talking to the audience. So this is one thing that she has to take care of. And the power of pause, yes, she effectively used the pauses until the conclusion, when she said that what can we do about it, and she rushed through the conclusion. That is exactly where she did not take any pause, and that is exactly where she had to take pauses, because that is where the message is coming up. So yeah, she had to bring in pauses there. Yes, again, the screen thing, it was perfectly, the setup was all okay, but at times when she moved out of the screen. One hand was out of the screen, so she has to make sure that whenever she is moving, she is within the screen, within those four sides of the screen, and she is very much, all her movements and everything is visible to the audience. Again, she used most of her right hand. Her left hand was here all the time. So when she is having those hand gestures, she has to make sure that she uses both the hands when she is using or explaining the message or telling us the story. Other than that, she is a great storyteller, but yes, she has to come out of that teacher's mode and present the story in a normal conversation way. Back to you.
Just a little bit here, Uday Lakshmi, since I've seen you a number of times, I feel that you have that sing-song, rhythmic kind of speaking as well. So, and this is not just for you, even the first speaker, I felt, because on that stage, I don't know, is it because too much of practice and too much of watching the speeches? Many speakers tend to get into that rhythmic mode of, sing-song kind of a speaking, which you should do away from. Like Nisha said, it should be a conversational speech, which is easier to relate to. Sorry. Coming to you, DTM Farhaz, how effectively did she use humor in her international speech? I think she was one of the speakers who effectively used humor, but what did she do, and what she could have done better on that aspect?
To tell you the truth, I literally laughed out loud, literally, when she said heavily pregnant wardrobe. That was really funny, very, very witty, I thought. And then the joke about the age also came out very well. That was also very witty. So humor was used adequately, and it was very effective. I mean, if somebody as thick as me can get it, I'm sure anybody can get it. So well done on that. In an international speech, I mean, there are two schools of thought. There is a tendency for people to say, now you need a lot of humor. But then I would sometimes turn around and ask, do you really need so much of humor? Because Mike Carr, in his current speech, who's the current reigning world champion, didn't really have too much of humor. Whereas if you take Karen Beverly or one of the previous speeches, Mohammad Khatani, there was lots of humor. So it's actually a toss-up. I guess the deciding factor is it going to add to your speech? Is it going to add value to your speech? If so, let's use it. And in this particular instance, both the times that I actually laughed out loud, it really added to the speech because it was a nice flow. I never thought about my wardrobe as being heavily pregnant, but I must admit it is. If you may, with your permission, can I point out one observation which may add value to our speaker? Dr. Sudha Murthy came in the middle of the speech, a multimillionaire, very famous personality, and Sudha Murthy makes our speaker realize, I personally would prefer, and I am sure in reality this is what happened in our speaker's real life, that the change in thinking or the inspiration to change in thinking did not really come from Sudha Murthy, but it actually came from the mother. The mother started this journey of teaching. The mother's experience, the mother's way of living with the cloth, with the uniform, and then with the wardrobe story, that was where the real learning came in. And when our speaker went into and heard Sudha Murthy, it was not Sudha Murthy's influence that changed our speaker, but it was truly the mother. And for me, if that was brought in, that's really, that's going to kind of take this speech. It's really going to bring all the emotions in, and it's going to grab that audience in, because this is more of a lovey-dovey family speech. And we need to make the mother the central character over here, the changing factor here, rather than Dr. Sudha Murthy. Of course, with all due respect to her, that's a lady I respect a lot. But all I'm saying is, in this speech, because of the content, because of the way it's being done, let's make the mother the hero and not Sudhamurthy. So that was just one thing I thought I'll point out to our speaker.
That's a brilliant thought, actually. Maybe the realization dawned with Sudhamurthy, but you could have reflected and, then brought in your mother, saying that in hindsight, I was actually taught all this all my life, but it took Sudhamurthy to make me realize it possibly. I don't know how you would want to work it about.
And this also serves the purpose of that reverse thought process, which DTM Sujit was pointing out earlier. So it might help with that. So just think about it. Think about the scripting in that. Back to you, ma'am.
Unless any other evaluator wants to add anything, I think we can hand it back.
Just one more thing, since her setting was all okay, but if she had placed the camera at her eye level, it would have been effective, because most of the time she was looking down and speaking. That's one more point. That's it.
Yeah, Nisha, since sorry for cutting you off there. On your point of a character not looking into the camera because the character is speaking to somebody else, I go back to Linda's session that had happened, where she categorically said that the moment you do that on screen, that is, take your eyes away, you disconnect from the audience. So you can still play the character while looking at the screen. She had brought this about in her session, and I really remember because I was there. So you take a position on the screen and still look at it playing that character. Don't completely disconnect from your audience by looking elsewhere. And I think maybe that is why Udaya, taking cue from them, maybe.
The way Udaya spoke was, her eye contact was with us.
With us,
so whenever
correct.
the character spoke, it was like the character is speaking to us. So the way you said, we can position ourselves in a way that we are with the audience, but we are speaking to the character also.
Yeah, correct. Agree. Absolutely. So thank you very much. DTM Sujit, any closing thoughts? DTM Farhaz, I leave it to you, or else we can give it back to the MC of the day.
Maybe just one addition. Movements using of stage, let's make the movements a bit more smooth, because here it was, I thought it was a bit forced, or there was an attempt being made to move. It shouldn't appear that way. You should have seen our champion DTM Nisha's speech that she did for district. I mean, the movements in that were like brilliant. If there is a video of that, please watch it. That's how movement should be. It should be just smooth. She was here, the sun was there, the animals were all over the place, and then there was this forest, the jungle and all of that. So just see if you could do that. And over here, I thought the movements were a little forced. So that's one thing just to keep in mind. That's it. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you very much to our esteemed panel for your insightful evaluations. I'm sure each speaker got their due share of what they need to work on. And to all the speakers, sometimes being critical is extremely helpful in helping us grow as a speaker, as a scriptwriter, all of that. So thank you very much for allowing me to moderate you, all geniuses. Back to you, Elna, for taking it forward.
Thank you so much, DTM Divya. I am known as the darling of District 105. Now, I don't know if it's a flattering statement, but I assure, and I'm sure you guys stay with me, because when I said initially that our next 80 minutes are going to be the most beautiful moments in the 2020, see, didn't I keep up my promises? We had the best of the best evaluations and the best of the best moderator amidst us. Now, I am going back to have my dinner, and before I go, I would like to hand over the stage to someone to whom I would never say no. When I was busy hogging on all the Christmas goodies, there she was busy running up and coordinating this wonderful session. So ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together and welcome Toastmaster Ajita for the word of thanks. Over to you, Toastmaster Ajita.
Thank you very much, Elna. Yes, we came to the end of the session. Before that, I would request everyone to turn on your video to take a group picture. So please. Elna, can you please help me with the picture? Thank you.
Can I have the widest smile? This would be the last photo of 2020. Okay. Nima, get set. 1, 2, 3. Done.
Thank you, Elna. Success occurs when opportunity meets preparation, said the great speaker Zig Ziglar. Today's attendance reflects the quote very well on the ambitious champions who are ready to sharpen their speaking skills for great achievements, and the wonderful trainers who are all here to guide them. Firstly, I would like to thank all the champions who have registered and sincerely attended all the 4 masterclass sessions. I hope that you all have gained benefits from them. From the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank all the trainers of today's session. Distinguished Toastmaster Nisha Sivram, Distinguished Toastmaster Farhas Farooq, Distinguished Toastmaster Divya, our moderator, and Distinguished Toastmaster Sujit Sugumaran, and our elegant MC, Toastmaster Elna, and also the trainers from our previous session, Distinguished Toastmaster Mark, Toastmaster Linda, and Toastmaster Kaishika. I would like to specially thank Distinguished Toastmaster Divya for referring and bringing in 2 wonderful trainers for this masterclasses. I would also like to give my special appreciation to the Division B Director, Toastmaster Harish, and Division L Director, Toastmaster Stephen George, for planting this wonderful idea to hold a series of masterclass, which will bring out a champion speaker from our District 105. Together, we can achieve more. Yes, I cannot find enough words to thank our core team who guided, advised, and took charge of all the things that from framing the curriculum, agenda, follow-up, and coordinating with the trainers and registering the participants. Let's have another hearty moment of appreciation for Distinguished Toastmaster Saumya Rangarajan, Distinguished Toastmaster Vinod Panikar, Distinguished Toastmaster Sandeep Vensarkar, Distinguished Toastmaster Vinod Raman, and our lovely Toastmaster Elna. Can I have few members to share their experience about the masterclass in just 2 sentences? I saw a few members, I saw them in all the 4 masterclasses. So I would like to call upon Distinguished Toastmaster Naina to share 2 sentences about the masterclass.
Hello, thank you, Ajita, for giving me the opportunity to say this. Huge thank to the entire team who came up with this concept, and not only came up with the concept, but also executed it so well and keeping the requirements of the contest and everything. So fantastic, fabulous. Keep it up. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Naina. Toastmaster Pragya, can I have your words, please?
Hi, everyone. I think honestly, this was one of the most well-structured and well-executed education sessions that I have seen. It was planned out really well from the beginning till the end, and it was developed like it's built on top of each other. So every session gave us more to take away. So I am sure anybody who attends this series has a lot to take away, and their speeches are just going to be taken to another level. And the team that put the effort to actually execute this, hats off to you guys. Thank you all for doing this.
Thank you, Toastmaster Pragya. May I have word from Toastmaster Peter?
Yes, fellow Toastmasters, dear friends, great pleasure. I was actually present in all 3 workshops, and I found them all of practical value. And I think that you did a great job in selecting this kind of framework, because to be honest with you, we're sick and tired of people talking about themselves. We're sick and tired of people proving that they can outdo somebody else. The whole idea in Toastmasters is a tool to use. And today, I think this series proves it, that there are tools, educational tools that we can take with us, even beyond Toastmasters, in our everyday lives, how to evaluate, how to stand, how to speak, how to engage. And I think you guys did that professionally well. So kudos to you. Keep up the good work and raise the bar even higher.
Thank you, Toastmaster Peter, and thank you everyone for the wonderful thoughts. Best wishes for all your future endeavors, and as rightly stated, Let's learn and grow together. Best wishes to everyone. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Yeah, now you can share your thoughts and have conversations.
I think we can take few more feedbacks, yeah?
Yes.
So I'm happy to see all you guys.
One feedback is to do away with the year.
Great.
Like
great.
I say.
Great job, great job, great job. Kudos to everyone. That's the way to do it.
It's either that or we all move to Peter's little island, the COVID-free island. Congratulations. I mean, that's a brilliant effort from your people in your island.
I wish it were my island. I'm only an inhabitant. I'm only a resident.
We'll swim in.
Nisha, if you have a recording of that speech that DTM Faraz was speaking about, could you please share, since some of our members have requested? If not, I mean, it's okay. I'm just asking you.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do. I will share it with them.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
So sorry to have put you on the spot, Sister Nisha, but it was a brilliant speech.
Since you said, I have a couple of requests asking me for that recording.
No, it was. Her movements were like brilliant. I watched the entire thing and it was brilliant.
Yeah, it was Simba coming alive.
That one, right? Everything came alive, really.
All right, then good night. And thank you very much to our esteemed panel for a brilliant evaluation session.
Thank you, guys. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Good night.
Bye-bye.